for joining me for episode 2 of Legend Vlog. I don't know why the name just literally slipped my mind for 2 seconds. Legend Vlog. This is a new thing for me and you guys. But I'm so grateful to be coming to you guys again today to talk about ICIM, which of course is about the one, the only intuition. So I feel like I'm being funny here, but y'all gotta forgive me because I literally work with kids all day, almost every single day. So, you know, sometimes the corn just pop out. Like, I don't know. But, okay, so before I hop into my notes, because I have a bunch of notes, y'all know. Like, if y'all don't know, I'm very much a note taker. I would write down 10 pages of notes and then get in front of people to speak and not read any of them. I don't understand. Like, I'm still trying to get better at my organization and my speaking and stuff, but, you know, the more you do it, the more the merrier, right? So, I thought it was really, really interesting that I named this episode ICIM because I actually had no idea that the full moon in Aries was coming up. We had the full moon in Aries on October the 9th. Excuse me, I'm going through a little bit of an energetic cold. Especially after the Aries full moon, but I think it's really gearing me up towards this Scorpio new moon that's coming up at the same time as a solar eclipse. So all of the Scorpio moons out there, you know, we got it. We got this. Okay, shout out to Peter Collins. We really got this, though, like, you know. But anyways, yeah, we just had the full moon in Aries, and I thought it was really interesting because Aries is, well, first of all, it's the first, is it? No, it's not the first. I want to say it is the first. I gotta double check. And I have my laptop right here too because I know I don't want to misspeak. However, what I do know for sure is that Aries is the sign of the ram. The ram also has a lot of biblical correlations. The ram and the lamb, right? The ram was usually the offering, while other animals were usually the sacrifice. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just looking up to make sure. I didn't want to misspeak. Yes. Okay, so Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. Okay. I did not want to misspeak because I was thinking, like, wait a minute, Capricorn technically is first. But, yeah, so in astrology, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Considered the governing period from March 21st to about the 19th. Okay, awesome. So, yeah, also I am in itself has a biblical reference because I know you guys remember that story where I don't remember what group it was, but it was like a group of people and they were questioning Jesus and they were like, who are you? We know you're not the real Jesus, so what's T? And he was just looking at him and he said, I am. And then everybody dropped to the floor. I remember that story pretty vividly, about in as much detail as I just said. However, it just struck me because I was like, okay, that's cool. I always love to reference what I'm learning now back to biblical context just because it's powerful as far as my own studies. It's powerful and when I'm working with ancestors and doing more so generational work because on both sides of my family, Christianity had a very, very heavy influence. So, and I'm sure that's the same with a lot of people. A lot of black people grew up in the church. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter which denomination, but what I have seen is that each denomination, and it's so funny, each denomination has its own, like, I want to say, like, specialty sector of usually voodoo practices and other things that stem from ATRs, right? So I thought that was really cool. Also, I found when I went into the Bible to find a reference for ram, this is how I found out that, you know, just a specific story about a ram being used as a offering. So Moses actually used 2 rams when he was doing an ordination ceremony for Aaron and Aaron's sons. So in that story, he actually slaughtered a bull first So he had them lay their hands on the bull, and he prayed over the bull, and the bull was the sacrifice for their sins, right? Because now they're being ordained into priests, so all of the sins from their past life were going to be put into this bull, which is going to be slaughtered, right? He threw the blood on the altar, pooped the blood. He did the whole nine. So after the sin sacrifice, then he took one of the rams and he had them lay their hands, do the same thing, lay their hands on the ram, but he discarded of the ram a little differently because the ram was actually the offering. Some of the internal organs were taken and washed and cleaned, and I don't want to get the specific details mixed up. I want to say burned at the altar. They were burned at the altar, while a lot of the internal organs and fats and stuff like that from the bull, they had to be burned outside of the tent, right? Because that was the sin sacrifice. Okay, so yes, y'all, as y'all can see, I was not well versed in that story, but I thought it was really cool because it's always something new to learn. You know, I'm only 23. I didn't spend that much time, like, you know, extensively studying each story in the Bible. But the ones that I do know, I always love to, you know, just go back and see what makes sense where, and where I can take stuff and, you know, apply it here and apply it there and apply it every little where. So, yeah, so first of all, I wanted to talk about what is intuition, right? Because when we talk about seeing with all of your eyes, to me that means that even the things that don't make sense logically, I'm gonna believe it. Why? Because I just feel too strong. That is how I feel about my intuition. I didn't always used to believe and trust in my intuition as much as I did now. It was definitely a process, and I feel like that's something for everybody. It takes a minute for you to trust your own voice, because I feel like we all grow up in the world. This world, ever since we were kids, we were always taught to not trust ourselves, all the way through school, all the way through college, and even outside of school, we're still taught to mistrust ourselves in the workspace, right? We be debating about, should I fight or should I say something because I know one of my morals got crossed, or, you know, one of my boundaries got crossed, one of my workers' rights got crossed, but should I say something because do I want to deal with it? Am I going to be believed? You know, like, we have all of these things all of these extra things, right? Besides our intuition. I want to say distractions, but it's not necessarily distractions, just extra voices. But that's why it's important to meditate and tune into yourself so that you learn what your voice sounds like versus all of these other voices, right? Because sometimes our voice can sound like the biggest critic, but is that really your voice? Or has the voice of someone else taken up so much space in your mind that now it starts to sound like your voice? Okay, and I'm gonna leave that one alone because that's very much off my notes. So let's talk about what is intuition, right? So whenever I talk to my students, I always like to take the words and I like to break them down to its roots, right? Etymology. And I actually just learned about etymology not too long ago, back in March, and I thought it was kind of just extra at first. There was a tutor. I'm also a tutor and a mentor for youth around Metro Detroit, and there was a tutor that I was training under, and he carried around this huge black, I want to say, what was it, a black book of law or something? I don't know. It was something. But inside the book, it was basically the roots of every word that we read in the story. All the words that my students were reading in the story, we could find them in that book. So I love it because it actually gives you a better definition of what a word really means. And a lot of times we feel like we know what something means, and we've been using it for 20, 30, 40 years, But when you break it down and you look at the etymology of the word, you might actually get a different meaning than what you've always been
when we're talking about intuition, right? So intuition is derived from the Latin word intuere. I hope I'm saying that right. Intuere, right? So that can be broken up into two syllables. In, which means upon, and tuveri, which means to look. So intveri in Latin means to look upon. Okay, so intveri is literally intuition. We know that the root word of intuition is intuit, right? Intuit is also a Latin word. That's also the word that we use in English, intuit. Intuit in Latin means contemplated. And in English, the definition is to understand or to work out by instinct, right? What is instinct? The gut feeling. It's the gut feeling. Where does it come from? The pineal gland. I'm being silly. Okay, 1, 2, 3, serious. So, the English definition of intuition, okay, so let's break that down a little bit. We already said that the English version of intuit is to understand or to work out by instinct, right? The suffix shun is the action of. So intuition in English is to understand or to work out by, it's the action of or the result of understanding or working out by instinct. That is a lot. That's a lot. Okay, so I feel like the action of understanding and working something out by instinct, the action of it is the thought, right? So that's when you realize that it's happening. So for instance, I walk into, here's one. Oh my gosh, I kind of don't want to talk about this. Well, I'm a traveling tutor, right? I got sent into this one specific workplace, and I couldn't exactly put my finger on what was wrong about this place because everybody was smiling. Everybody else seemed like they were comfortable. There were kids around. The kids seemed like they were okay. You know what I'm saying? It was clean. It wasn't too many explicit things for me to be like, okay, I understand why I'm feeling like I need to get out. I felt like I was in Get Out. There weren't too many surface level things to where I could, say, okay, I see why I had to get out. That was the physical awareness, right? That's what I felt in my body. I felt it in my stomach, the fullness in my head. If I see something fly past my face, it's over. Like, it's over. What's going on? Like, what's going on? What is going on? But I just started to notice little things, like it was almost like the smiles that they had on their face were painted like, I don't know. Look, I don't want to talk about people, but you could just tell when stuff is weird, right? Granted, your intuition should be telling you when stuff is good too, not only when stuff is bad. But in this particular instance, it was such a get out scenario, so I had to use it. That was literally the action of me understanding, right? Me feeling those feelings and then saying, like, understanding, like, okay, something is off. Now, the working by instinct is when I went to go talk to my boss and tell her, I know, everybody is skipping through dandelions and daffodils right now, but I'm not coming back. And, granted, I was the only person that chose to leave. However, after I left, secrets were revealed. So, intuition literally has two different parts. It's the understanding of, okay, this is how I feel. These are the physical symptoms, right? My hands are shaking. There was this one time where I ran into it was an old ex. I'm gonna be honest. I ran into an old ex at a gas station, and we didn't leave off on bad terms, or we weren't on bad terms. I shouldn't have been nervous. I don't understand why I was nervous, besides the fact that it had been a long time between us seeing each other, but my whole body was shaking. Like, that was literally me. That was me in my mind trying to search for like a way to stop shaking. Like, and I even texted my friend. I said, "Girl, I'm in here shaking like something is wrong with me. I don't understand. Like it's it's -9 degrees or something." And it was the summertime. I was hot, but that was the physical awareness of my body telling me, "Girl, it's a lot of unexpressed emotions, and there's a lot of communication that needs to happen. There's a lot of boundaries that need to be set. There's a lot of things that were left unfinished," right? That was the physical awareness. Now, the working by instinct is me later going and communicating, setting those boundaries, right? So when I saw him again, it wasn't the same. If I were to see him today, okay, I see and I don't see, and you cannot see me, and that's just what it is. So anyways, that is the silliest way to describe intuition, but that's real life though, okay? So hey, it is what it is. And I feel like it's really the perfect time to talk about intuition, because we just had the Aries full moon, and I feel like that was really just pushing everybody to be their best self. If it wasn't being their best self, it was being their whole self, and whatever self is present at the time. I know Aries was pushing us to be that very much I am energy, very much big energy, okay? Like main character energy. That's definitely what the Aries full moon gave me. And I have a Scorpio moon. So I feel like it was drastic. It was drastic, especially with my Aries being in Saturn. But that's neither here nor there. So as far as intuition, I also wanted to talk about just a couple of the ways that we can cheat the body system, because the body is almost literally a mechanical system. Before I get too caught up into that, I want to bring this up. I want to bring this up because as I was sitting down writing my notes about the intuition, Spirit laid this word on my heart, microzone. And I figured that it was a sciencey word, maybe like chemistry or something. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't remember. It's been a long time since I took sciences like that. So I went to go look it up, and microzones are enzymes within the cell cytoplasm, right? And they're responsible for the endoplasmic reticulum. So, literally, first of all, microsomes technically do not exist, right? They exist because they make themselves exist, in a way. Microsomes are a part of the body, like each cell creates microsomes. But before they are created, they technically do not exist. However, this is an automatic function for every single one of the cells in our body. So let me just break it down a little bit, because I was like, what in the world does this have to do with anything? So basically, microsomes are within the cell cytoplasm, right? So they basically so with the ER, right? So basically, I don't want to misspeak because y'all Yeah, so basically they take the ER, and if anybody is better at, this is more like biology. If anybody is better at this, please, correct me. But this is my understanding. Microsomes come in, they take the ER, and they break that shit the hell up. They break it down until it's not even the same, right? So some of those cells are gonna die. The ones that don't die are going to regroup and make something brand new. Vacuole-like substances that are brand new, right? It's no longer what it was before, the ER, right? I think ER is a process. I think they're breaking down. I'm not sure what exactly they're breaking down. They're either breaking down the ER or they're breaking down other enzymes. I'm not a biologist. I'm a botanist. But guys, so yes, they're breaking it apart to make something completely new, right? And once these new vacuoles are made, well, now they're considered microsomes, and they can transfer electrons to other microsomes that were made, and also just other enzymes, right? And I was thinking, like, okay, what does this have to do with intuition? Like, this is a lot for what? Well, your intuition technically does not exist, and a lot of times you won't necessarily see too much explicit factual information on the surface that's ready and there for you to be able to prove your intuition. That's almost not even what you should be looking for with your intuition. Intuition is about trusting yourself, whether you see the proof or not. Because later on, you'll see the proof. And actually, if you look hard enough, you'll see enough proof to where it don't have to be written out necessarily. But if you believe yourself and our intuitions, once you start trusting yourself, you'll see your intuition got a track record for being right. My intuition is one of the most right voices, one of the most accurate voices that I hear from. Why? Because my intuition literally comes from God. Our intuition comes from God. I think a lot of times when people are talking about the Holy Spirit, sometimes they're talking about their intuition, aka your higher self. That's just my opinion. But just like, our intuition technically doesn't exist. That's not something that you can slice open the body and see. Just like a microsome, you can't even dissect a cell and find microsomes. You can't. You have to break down the cell cytoplasm and break it down until the microsomes are going to start doing what they do. And it's like, oh, right? Just like our intuition, that's not something that you can just, it's not a physical, it's not. It's a spiritual connection that we get to experience physically through physical sensations, through mental pictures, audibles, all different types of ways. There are all different types of ways. Dreams. My intuition used dreams a lot, and that's something that I really had to work through because I used to nightmare. Oh my goodness. I used to nightmare when I was younger, and it's so crazy because I used to when I got a little older, I was like, I can't sleep. But then it's like, when I thought about it, I was like, okay, Nia, but you also spent 4 years trying to make yourself not sleep because sleeping, you were scared to nightmare. You were uncomfortable. So, a lot of times we do stuff to ourselves. But granted, my intuition brought me there to understand, why I couldn't sleep. Because it's one thing to just be taking pills and say, okay, well, I can't sleep and there's no reason for me to not be able to sleep. It's another thing for me to actually go back and say, okay, wait a minute. And a lot of things we tuck away in our sacral chakra. Did you guys know that our sacral chakra holds majority of our memory tissue in the gut? In the gut? Well, the womb and the gut are two different things, but the gut definitely holds memory tissue. And so does the womb. But yeah, so microsomes are just like our intuition, right? So doesn't technically need to exist to be real. Very, very, very real. And if you pay attention and trust it, it'll have a track record of accuracy. Okay, so here is that cheat system that I was talking about. And it's actually interesting that me and my mom were talking about hormones, and I actually was just doing a lot of research on hormones in the brain. Let me just make sure that I look, y'all know, before I misspeak, one thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab my laptop. Okay, I'm going to grab my laptop. Yes, these are hormones. Okay, so here's a little cheat code for hormones. So basically, y'all, this is what I have been discovering. I've been discovering that each emotion can be chemically linked to a certain hormone, right? So, for example, the reward chemical is dopamine. That's usually associated with accomplishment. So, getting a good grade, somebody telling you that they're super proud of you, right? Finally paying off that bill that you've been trying to pay off for the last 5 years. I gotta keep an eye on. I got a candle burning behind me, so something just told me, like, look at your candle. I have to just look at it. It's burning so nicely. It's a nice self-love candle for me and one of my loved ones. But yeah, so dopamine is usually associated with accomplishments, which I thought was interesting because when we start to talk about drugs, a lot of the recreational drugs that we use, we always hear they cause or they produce massive amounts of dopamine, which I thought was interesting because if dopamine is the hormone for accomplishments, you know, it's almost like when you're taking these drugs, your brain is like, ah! I'm being silly, y'all, but basically, I'm just saying there's a better way to do it, right? If you can find different ways to increase your dopamine, whether that is listening to binaural beats that are specifically for dopamine release, or doing a certain exercise or a certain dance routine, learning a dance routine, learning a certain exercise and just doing it for 3 days in a row. It doesn't have to be a super long goal. Like, let's not get crazy. Let's start with small goals. One thing that I started with was just trying to stretch 3 times a week. You know, and before you know it, you'll be getting up and stretching because this is just something that feels good to you. It's the reward. It's the dopamine. It'll start kicking in, and before you know it, you'll start to feel better, and you won't even need the drug, or you won't need as much. I'm gonna just say it won't be as difficult to quit because it won't be on your mind as much, because you got to think, if you are fulfilled in that area, what is the reason that your mind will go there besides habit? But also the more that you create different actions that are still benefiting those same needs, the habits will change. You just have to find something that still feels just as beneficial, still feels just as good, still feels just as rewarding as the drugs. Okay, so I'm gonna skip I'm gonna stop talking about the drugs, and then I want to talk about oxytocin, right? Because this is the love hormone. So when I think about this, the number one addiction that I'm thinking about is sex, porn addiction, sex addiction, because orgasms release huge amounts of oxytocin, right? Oh, I skipped it. I skipped where dopamine was made. I skipped it. It's okay. I'll come back to it. So oxytocin is the love hormone. Serotonin is the mood stabilizing hormone. So things like going in and taking a walk on a sunny day, or closing your eyes while you sit at the beach and you get a tan, or going to the river and just floating, or doing your meditation, or just, I don't know, playing with a Zen garden, like just connecting with nature. Playing with your dog, because our pets are a part of nature. So these are all things that can stimulate serotonin. And endorphins, I'm just mentioning the main four in the brain. Dopamine, the reward chemical. Oxytocin is the love hormone. Serotonin is the mood stabilizer. And endorphins are the painkillers, right? So endorphins, when I first heard endorphins, I said, oh, that's the shot that they give to women during childbirth, right? I'm pretty sure that is literally exactly what it is, the endorphin shot. I've never had a kid, so that's why I'm just guessing a little bit. But when you look at the things that can release massive amounts of endorphins, they are literally the things that bring you joy. The things that bring you the most joy. And let me just because I want to give you guys a couple of examples, because I think that this is really important. This is actually one of my favorites. Yes, so here we go. I see watching a comedy, so laughter, that's joy. That is straight up joy, right? And I feel like that's something that a lot of times we miss. We'll go through a whole day, especially like, being adults, and you start living by yourself. You'll go through a whole day you'll watch a scary movie, you'll be on the phone talking shit, you don't really listen to you might not listen to music, or you might listen to your favorite rappers, and then boom, it's 9 o'clock and you haven't laughed all day. Laughter is very, very, very important. A lot of times when I'm scrolling on TikTok, I'll see people like, doing the laughter therapy on Snapchat. Granted, I'm not sure if I would get into that personally, but I definitely can see the benefit, because laughter emits huge amounts of endorphins, which is literally the painkilling hormone, right? It tells our body, like, I'm happy right now, I'm joyful right now, I love this. Some other things that can stimulate endorphins is exercise and essential oils, so really good smells. And since I see essential oils, I'm also thinking about really good cooking, because when I go in the kitchen and I make greens, beans, plants, tomato, chicken, you name it, okay, and then I come in there and ooh, it smells good, that gives me joy. That is joy. That's a joyful feeling. I'm sure that is emitting tons of endorphins in my brain. And it actually makes me want to cook more. Once I smell how good my food smells, and I smell how it just makes my whole house just filled with this just wonderful Thanksgiving, grandma's finally back again aroma, I want to cook again. Like, now I want to make dessert. Now I want to invite everybody over, because now I just want everybody to share this joy with me. And I actually feel like food is one of my love languages, which is interesting, considering my relationship with food. Maybe one day I'll get into that a little bit more. But so it's important to know, once you understand these hormones and what exactly they do, what these hormones are for, and how you can naturally up your intake of each of these hormones or whatever you see is imbalanced, right? One way that you can tell, like, well, what is imbalanced? Because, you know, me specifically, you know, it's one thing to say, like, oh, you know, let's use drinking, for example. Like, because when I was in college, I feel like I had a little bit of a problem. So it's one thing to say, like, okay, you know, I just like to drink because I just like to drink. I just like to get drunk. I just like to feel woo. And that's literally how I felt, though. It's one thing to think that. It's another thing to literally look at your body, think about how things are making you feel, and literally feel what things are making you feel. So, for example, I noticed that when I was drinking a lot, I would have pains in my ovaries. Just these random pains in my ovaries for no reason at all. Right? That was the logic behind it. No reason at all. Now, the intuit behind it was, what is the real reason that you're drinking, right? Granted, I was a student too. I was a college student. So only in certain situations was I drinking. And certain situations I was drinking a lot more than others, which is usually when my ovaries started to burn. My ovaries were telling me, girl, do you want to deal with the real issue or you want to keep drinking? So anyways, that's neither here nor there. Dopamine is made in the adrenal gland, and the adrenal gland is on top of both kidneys to help them regulate metabolism, the immune system, blood pressure, and your response to stress, right? So that fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And also adrenaline. So dopamine is made in the adrenal gland and also in the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is in the brain, and the adrenal gland sits on top of both kidneys. It's glands, triangular shaped glands that sit on top of both kidneys. So that is very important. Very, very, very important. Especially when it comes to talking about when we start to feel physical symptoms, right? So we might do these things and we feel these physical symptoms. Well, the symptoms might be telling you, you know, where something is off or where something is being blocked. We also know that, I'm just going to keep relating it to alcohol because that's what I brought up. We also know that alcohol attacks the kidneys, right? If dopamine is made by the adrenal glands, which sit directly on top of the kidneys. Yeah, okay. So one reason why, you know, my ovaries were like, are you kidding me? You know, it's in the same area. And also your response to stress. So the adrenal gland, dopamine is made by the adrenal gland, and the adrenal gland controls your response to stress, which is the release of adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormone, right? Stress has a direct correlation to the ovaries. If you are under enough stress, your body will cease to ovulate. That doesn't mean forever, but you might skip it in ovulation. I have skipped several because my body was stressed out and I was not listening to my intuition. So that's dopamine. It's made in the adrenal gland and it's made in the hypothalamus. Oh, the hypothalamus is responsible for homeostasis, which is basically just like the stability of the body, just making sure that the body can run properly and everything is, you know, normal. All of the automatic functions are automatically functioning, this, that, and the third, right? Oxytocin is also made in the hypothalamus. Serotonin is 90 to 95% made in the gut. Let's wind it back to alcohol again. First of all, let me see. I want to see what hormones does alcohol release in the brain. Okay. So I actually use my intuition to correlate dopamine and alcohol. They have a direct correlation. Yeah. Yes. So does serotonin. It says, this is according to the NCBI. All my fact checkers. I went to a research university, so I'm with all the slow. Serotonin plays an important role in mediating alcohol's effects on the brain. Alcohol exposure alters several. It modulates serotonin levels in the synapses and modifies the activities of specific serotonin receptor proteins, right? So basically, it makes it, what I got from that, so what I got from that is when you drink alcohol, serotonin is released. However, it's also inhibiting those receptors. 95% of serotonin is made in the gut, right? And we know the gut is literally what flushes out the toxins. That whole system flushes out the toxins. I'm pretty sure we can all use our intuition to see how alcohol has a negative effect on serotonin intake and serotonin production in itself. Also, endorphins, this is the last one. Endorphins are made in the hypothalamus in the brain and also in the pituitary gland, which is a small gland at the base of the brain, which is really important for growth and reproductive functioning. This is also called the master gland. So endorphins, as you guys know, are the love hormone. So let me just go and see alcohol and endorphins. This is one thing that my university really came into. Yep. My university really came in handy with showing me how to do really good research really fast. Yes. So drinking also does release endorphins in the brain, which is interesting because endorphins are responsible for our reproductive functioning, right? So literally, that I'm gonna take it back to when I was talking about how, you know, when I was drinking too much, and you know, granted, let's just be honest about why I was drinking. I was drinking to mask who I was with and the reasons why I was doing what I was doing. It was a cover-up. It was the trick bag. I was putting myself in the trick bag, right, by choice. Endorphins are absolutely released after drinking, absolutely. And reproductive functioning. The ovary is a reproductive organ in itself. So yeah, y'all, that is pretty much all I got as far as the hormones being released in the brain. And one thing that I found was the more that you are able to diversify the amount of activities and things that you partake in to ultimately lead you to the same result, the happier you'll be. That is just something that and it's like you can find different healthy ways of doing stuff, right? You might be okay with doing this today, and then tomorrow you want to switch it up. That's okay. That's completely fine. And I think it's also important to know, like, I don't want to make anybody feel like I'm saying, like, you know, alcohol and sex and none of that is bad, right? I'm not saying anything is bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I think a lot of things are not good and bad. I think a lot of things are neutral. I think it's important to remember that everything can be good with balance, right? Anything can be good with balance. But sometimes the balance means that I don't need this at all. That's just sometimes. That's sometimes. And that's mostly only with things that are destructive, right? Which is, you wouldn't even want that. We're talking about things that are desirable, things that are ultimately leading us to our highest selves, our greatest good, the God path, the path of light, the path that we're supposed to be walking with. So I really, really, really enjoy having this talk with you guys today. I've been waiting so long to make this video. I really wanted to be by the river, but I'm glad that I get a chance to be in my own house. And granted, you know, we have the river sound effects from my rock tumbler. Special shout out to my rock tumbler that's back there making all of that noise. But also, speaking of the rock tumbler, I'm super, super excited because just over the past, I'll say like month or so, I've really been getting into geology. And it all started off with, I have to give a special shout out to my my red jasper right here. This was I'm gonna bring it up to you guys so you can see. This was the first stone that I picked up. And I actually picked it up. Don't look at my nails. I know they need to be done. I picked it up on my way walking into my apartment just a couple weeks ago, and my friend was like, "What is that?" And I said, "I don't know, but I feel like I need it." And you know, she said, "I think you picked it up because it looked like a penis." And granted, it does look kind of phallic. However, when I looked it up, right, I found out that it was a red jasper. And granted, what better stone to be shaped like a penis than a freaking red jasper? Especially talking about being grounded in my own sexual energy, especially my masculine energy, right? Because we all have feminine and masculine energy within us. I always talk about how I need to balance my masculine energy, and God said, "Boop, here you go. Hey, here I go. I heard you was looking for me. Here I go." That was literally me getting this crystal. I mean, it is a crystal though. Like, it'll be a crystal officially once I tumble it. So guys, I have new stones that are coming to the Botanica. I'm super, super excited. I have two of these really beautiful cherry quartz, which are really good for emotional healing. I love it. I love it. I love it when I heal it. Okay, I have this awesome granite. I'm gonna just show you guys my rocks, because why not? I have this awesome granite, guys.
Hey, y'all, my phone
I love it.
died.
Granite,
but as I was saying, so granite is down here. Granite, I would use granite if I was doing like money manifestations, or if I was in the middle of really just trying to maintain the grit and the persistence for working with like a new job, or maintaining something that is like your business. I would use this, you know, when you're manifesting abundance in your business and prosperity in your business, building anything, building a relationship. You can use granite. It's literally bridges. They said bridges, paved ways, literally out here road opening, pathways, creating pathways, opening doors, creating lanes, opening new doors. So that's what I would use granite for.
just real quick right here, I don't know if I already said this, but this is cherry quartz, and it's so beautiful. I've actually never heard of cherry quartz before. There's so many different types of quartz. Ooh, y'all probably can't hear me. Yeah. That's usually how I do my divinations, or just, you know, I call it divinations now, but I used to just really be trying to figure out what stuff meant. And it really started with my dreams. That's where it all started. Because like I told y'all, I used to have a lot of crazy dreams. But I did want to really talk to y'all about something that's near and dear to my heart. The stones and crystals that I am finding. I'm going to make them available very, very soon in the Botanica. My rock tumbler is over there tumbling. It's doing its thing, going crazy, making these stones look really, really nice. And I'm super excited. This is something new for me, and I'm just super excited because, you know, like, it's just exciting to be doing something that feels good to you. That's actually fun, and, you know, like, something that I can eventually, you know, teach people how to do, because it's not difficult. And starting with my students, because they're outside playing every day, and, you know, I feel like it's just easier. It's better to know it as a kid, because then you'll come to understand it more as you get older, and then kids just pick up on stuff fast, and they're more open to stuff. So definitely getting my students with all of that work, all of that knowledge. But yeah, it's just a lot of exciting stuff coming up in the Botanica. I don't know why I'm... Oh, yes. So I did want to let you guys know my vigilance candle is so beautiful. I've been waiting to burn it because I didn't want to burn it yet. I wanted to just wait until I felt like it was the right time, because hey, I know it's gonna do what it's gonna do, so I just know, like, I'm just gonna wait until, you know, my guys tell me that it's time. But I did want to let you guys know, because while my phone was dead, I did grab my cards, and intuition was staring me in the face. Queen 90, like, I love her so much, but I just thought that was so hilarious that she was literally just sitting there, like, period. And the whole episode was about intuition, okay? Hello. And also, they wanted me to let you guys know. Let me just take a second. Yeah. Yeah, so your intuition is literally you. It's literally you talking to yourself. It's a higher you, literally your higher self talking to you. So ignoring your intuition a lot of times is part of the reason why we grapple so much for other things to try to fulfill us. Because we know what will really fulfill us. It's just a matter of doing it. And you know what's interesting, because I was watching a lot of videos that were talking about nature versus normal. You know, what's normal in society versus what is in our nature. And that's just something to think about. I feel like it causes a lot of cognitive dissonance. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's really what you desire. That's what you desire. Your intuition is leading you to your desires, because the universe wants for you what you want for yourself. Your true desires. Not the bullshit. Not the bullshit that you just, you know, you try to make yourself not. No, we're being for real. We're talking in truth. Like, in full truth in life, right? We were talking about grace and accountability. This is accountability, right? And this is how you avoid I love Sekhmet. She's such a protector, but she's letting us know that when you ignore your intuition, it's you wound yourself. It's a wound. You create another wound, right? And we were talking about how our suppressed emotions are stored in our wombs. And for everybody, we have memory tissue in our gut. Right? So don't hold yourself back from the pleasure that you could be experiencing and that you really desire to feel. You get that when you say yes to yourself. Your intuition is you. Your intuition is nothing but your higher self. And honestly, it's like, yes, God gave us our intuition. Our higher self is the highest connection that we have. Like, that's our connection to God. Because our flesh right here, that ain't it. We don't have no. That's why we gotta use all these tools and stuff. But our higher connection, this is me talking now. Our higher connection is via our intuition, our higher self. And our intuition comes in and lets us know. That's what we call it. It's our higher self talking to us. So I don't want my phone to die. Again, I love you guys. And I have fun kicking it. And I can't wait for the next episode. I hope you guys have fun. And I hope that, I said some stuff that resonated. I know I got a little loopy and a little tongue-tied, but, I just thank y'all for hanging in there with me and kicking it. And until next time, shut up.